So after my review on the Mindbender, I had an overwhelming number of comments on there saying like, hey, this is a Mako3. Why don't you compare this to the Mako3? All of these, like this looks exactly like a Mako3. To be honest, I have no idea why or how. I didn't even think about that for that review. So I've got the Mindbender out here again with the Mako3, and we're gonna take a look at these and see how they compare. And they're surprisingly like very similar, but also very different. So let's talk about it. First off, with the shape of the disc, it's been a while since I've thrown or held a Mako3, and I could have sworn it was a lot deeper when I first felt it. Like that was like right when it came out, but it feels very similar to the Mindbender. It does feel like ever so slightly deeper, but it's one of those things where if you hand me both of these discs and say, hey, one is 1 millimeter or half a millimeter deeper than the other, which one is it? I'd feel them and be like, it's the Mako3, that's a millimeter deeper, it has to be. But if you also gave me the discs and was like, hey, here's this, and these are both the same depth, and I felt them, I'd be like, yeah, that's the same depth, yeah, sure. So it's like so minute, it's like can't even, if you had to twist my arm, I'd say maybe the Mako3 is deeper, but they feel exactly the same. The rim is almost identical, the diameter is the same, it's just one's made by Innova, one's made by Discmania. The feel is almost indistinguishable in terms of shape of it. The one note is that the Innova one, I just picked this up because again, I haven't thrown a Mako since it like first came out, and I've actually never owned one. Don't know how. Don't ask me, just never have. But this Innova one has like a pretty big flashing on the edge of the rim inside of it. So yeah, the Discmania ones, those of you who have gotten them, by the way, I'm getting a few more of these in sometime this week or next week, so keep an eye on the site. I'll post it on my Instagram if you follow me on that. I don't post a whole lot. I haven't gotten in the groove of that one yet, so but I'll post when I get more of these in if you're interested. But yeah, if you get one of these Discmania Mindbenders, they're not gonna have like any flashing. It's very polished. It just feels really good right out of the box. Like there might be like minimal flashing, but you won't even notice it. When in this one I was like, oh dang, that's almost like cutting me type of flashing. So I don't know if it's just recent stuff. I've never really had too big of an issue with flashing on Innova, but maybe you guys in the comments can talk more about it. I haven't bought a whole lot of new discs from Innova recently. I have just my Wraiths and T-Birds and stuff, and my T-Birds are all old. When it comes to the flight, it's really weird because they are very similar, and they're almost like swap them out, in and out type discs, but at the same time they're a little bit different. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. So I'm out here at a shorter course and throwing both of these. They fly very similar lines really well. The only thing is once you get into like a breeze, like it's like, I'm talking like breeze, not even wind. There was like a left to right, like 5 to 8 mile per hour breeze. And then there were some holes that were just straight headwind with that same like 7 or 8 mile per hour breeze. And that's when like these two started to separate a lot. There's some guys throwing. I hope they don't, if they shank it, they can hit me. But that guy didn't, so we're good. If you see a disc fly out of nowhere, then you know they threw a pretty bad shot because I'm right by the tee pad of the next hole. Anyways, they both are great like hyzer flip discs. Like you can watch my review on the Mindbender. I talked about how well this does, shot shaping and all of that. But once you get to a breeze, I found that the Mindbender liked to turn more. So like there was just a straight tunnel shot, I would hyzer flip it, but I tried hyzer flipping the Mindbender and it kept turning. So this doesn't do a whole lot. He parked it. This doesn't do a whole lot against wind. When the Mako3, like it pretty much just ignored it. It flew just like it usually does without wind. It just popped up dead straight and it just didn't really care too much about the wind and even faded out a little bit. Guy parked it as well, which is weird because without wind, these are very, very close. I would still say the Mindbender is slightly less overstable overall. I mean, more understable. They're not overstable whatsoever. And so the Mako 3 is just more forgiving, I found. You have to have just a lot better angle control and integrity of the... With the Mindbender, you just have to have just better angle control and just swing plane integrity. That's the most recent overthrow video, the swing plane, I think it's called. So when you have that integrity of the swing plane, you have to have better integrity with the Mindbender. If I just butchered that, Josh, I'm sorry. Ream me in the comments. That's why I don't do the technical form stuff. I'm not that guy. I can tell you how these fly though. But yeah, you have to just throw a little bit cleaner with the Mindbender rather than the Mako 3, because especially in the winds, this one still held and flew like a Mako 3 flies in the wind. Now, one thing to note that could be due to the excessive flashing on this Mako 3, so it just made it a little bit more, just have a little bit more integrity to it. I don't know, could be it. Or it could be the stability, I don't know. But either way, these are both great discs to just teach your angles, teach you to throw different angles and have those different swing planes, because you can literally just like hyzer flip this to fly dead straight. It's just gonna fly straight on a rope, maybe give a little finish at the end and just give you great straight flight. But then you can also put it on a deeper hyzer, have it be push out and hold the hyzer the entire way. It's stable enough to do that. Both of them are. But also you can just throw them flat or with a touch of Annie, and it's gonna give you that beautiful Annie flight. But the thing is, in my last video I talked about the Mindbender being like a great option for everyone and like probably my #1 recommendation for beginners, and I would still say that. If you gave me both of these and be like, if a beginner came to me and was like, which one should I get, an MD1 or a Mako 3, I would still lean towards the MD1 just because it requires a little bit more angle integrity and proper like swing plane and throws to... It's a little less forgiving, and that's a good thing when you're a beginner. And you can still use this really well when you're intermediate to advanced to pros, obviously, because Simon uses it. Now, the Mako 3 is still an amazing disc, and like don't be like buyer's remorse or anything if you're a beginner and you're just like, oh shoot, I bought the Mako 3. I made the wrong purchase. No, you didn't. It's still a really good disc. I would just, if you had to choose between the two, I would go with the MD1 personally. But yeah, I would describe the Mako 3 more like the power player's understable disc. If you throw with a lot of power and you don't like to hold back much on your throws, then this will hold whatever line you put it on and be very workable at power throws. The Mindbender is more of like a finesse player's throwing workable mid. So they both do the same thing, but this one I would say fits more into like a finesse player's game, when this one's more into a power player's game, because this one I just had more confidence in it just pumping it off of the tee, when this one like I could pump it off of the tee, but again I'd have to have like a lot better angle control, have the proper swing plane and all of that to hit my lines and not just turn this over. So anyways, but that's basically the similarities. They're so minute. I don't think it's enough to bag both, but it's an either or. It just depends on your style of game and preference, and even preference in plastic. So anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.